There was a time when Earth did not belong to just one kind of human. Thousands of years ago, several human species shared the planet. If you traveled back 40 or 50,000 years, you would not see only Homo sapiens. Some humans were shorter, stronger, and built very differently from us. Some were perfectly adapted for cold and harsh environments. Others evolved on isolated islands into forms that seem almost unbelievable. Some ancient humans are known more from their DNA than their faces. And among all of them, there was us, Homo sapiens. Today, we are the only human species left. But that raises a disturbing question. What happened to everyone else? For most of history, humanity was not a single species. It was a large family with many branches. Evolution kept experimenting with different kinds of humans, different bodies, different brains, and different survival strategies. But one by one, those branches disappeared. And the strangest part is that we still don't know exactly why. There was no single battle that decided everything. There was no single catastrophe either. Instead, the story looks more like a slow disappearance. Small populations became isolated. Environments changed. Resources shifted. Competition increased. And over time, entire human species vanished. To understand this story, we begin with Homo erectus. And Homo erectus was no failed experiment. In many ways, they were one of the most successful humans ever. They first appeared around 2 million years ago. Their bodies looked much more modern than earlier human relatives. They had long legs built for walking great distances and were among the first humans to spread beyond Africa. Over time, they reached parts of Asia and survived across huge regions of the world. What makes their story remarkable is how long they lasted. Homo erectus survived for over 1 million years, far longer than our own species has existed. If Homo sapiens feels permanent today, Homo erectus reminds us that even the most successful species can eventually disappear. Their faces look different from ours. They had thick brow, ridges, lower skulls, and brains that were smaller than modern humans, but much larger than earlier ancestors. They made stone tools, hunted animals, scavenged for food, and adapted to many different environments. For hundreds of thousands of years, that was enough. They survived changing climates, shifting landscapes, and countless environmental challenges. But eventually, their story began to come to an end. The last known populations of Homo erectus lived on the island of Java. Scientists discovered some of the latest fossils there, dating back roughly 117,000 years. By that time, the world was changing rapidly. Forests expanded and disappeared. Rivers changed course. Animals moved into new territories. Small populations became increasingly vulnerable. Some groups may have become isolated from one another. Adapting to these changes became harder and harder. At the same time, other human species were appearing across different parts of the world. Competition for resources may have increased. Environmental pressures continued to grow. And eventually, after surviving for more than 1 million years, Homo erectus disappeared. The exact reason remains uncertain. We still don't know whether climate change, isolation, competition, bad luck, or a combination of many factors led to their extinction. But their story teaches us something important. Surviving for a very long time does not guarantee survival forever. And Homo erectus was only the beginning, because next we come to one of the most famous human species ever discovered, the Neanderthals. Then there were the Neanderthals, probably the most famous human species after us. For a long time, Neanderthals were portrayed as primitive cave dwellers, slow, unintelligent, and barely human. But modern science has completely changed that picture. Neanderthals were not failed humans. They were a different solution to the same challenge: how to survive in a harsh Ice Age world. Their bodies were powerful. Compared to Homo sapiens, they were shorter, broader, and much more heavily built. They had wide chests, strong arms, thick bones, and large noses that may have helped them breathe cold air more efficiently. Everything about their bodies was designed for survival in freezing environments. Life was not easy for them. They hunted large animals at close range, often facing mammoths, bison, and other dangerous prey with simple weapons. It was an incredibly risky way to live. In fact, many Neanderthal skeletons show injuries similar to those seen in modern rodeo riders: broken bones and physical trauma caused by getting very close to powerful animals. But Neanderthals were much more than hunters. They used fire. They created sophisticated tools. They cared for injured members of their groups. Some evidence even suggests they used pigments, ornaments, and possibly symbolic behavior. These were not monsters hiding in caves. They were humans of another kind. And for hundreds of thousands of years, they survived successfully across Europe and parts of Asia. Then something changed. Around 60 to 50,000 years ago, Homo sapiens began expanding into territories where Neanderthals already lived. For thousands of years, the two species shared parts of the same world. And eventually, around 40,000 years ago, Neanderthals disappeared as a distinct human species. For a long time, people assumed the answer was simple. We arrived, we were smarter, we replaced them. But reality is probably much more complicated. Neanderthal populations were often small and scattered. That made them vulnerable. Small groups can disappear surprisingly easily. A few bad winters, food shortages, disease outbreaks, failed hunts, or lower birth rates can slowly push a population toward extinction. Ancient DNA reveals another clue. Many late Neanderthal populations appear to have had low genetic diversity. In simple terms, their populations may already have been shrinking long before Homo sapiens became a major factor. Then there was climate change. The Ice Age world constantly shifted between colder and warmer periods. Forests expanded, grasslands disappeared, animals migrated, habitats changed again and again. Imagine spending generations learning how to survive in one environment only to watch that environment transform around you. And while all of this was happening, a new human species was arriving, Homo sapiens. We may not have been physically stronger than Neanderthals. In some situations, they were probably stronger than us, but we may have had one major advantage: flexibility. Our groups often maintained wider social networks. Information traveled farther, ideas spread faster, tools improved more quickly. People exchanged resources across greater distances. If one group struggled, another group could help. Knowledge didn't remain trapped in a single valley or region. This doesn't mean there was one great war between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. More likely, Neanderthals faced thousands of small challenges at once: climate instability, shrinking populations, competition, isolation in changing environments. Over time, those pressures became too much, and eventually Neanderthals vanished, or at least mostly vanished, because there is one fascinating twist. When scientists studied ancient DNA, they discovered that Neanderthals and Homo sapiens had children together. Today, many people outside Africa still carry small amounts of Neanderthal DNA inside their bodies. In a way, part of the Neanderthals never truly disappeared. Their species vanished, but fragments of their genetic legacy are still alive today. And then we arrive at one of the strangest chapters in human evolution: the Denisovans.